Visus, which is a Seattle-based sports technology company. Sorry to bring the rain with me today from Seattle. And today I'm going to share the story of how we developed the 01 football helmet. So we got into this because we love football. But even back in 2013, 2014, when we started the company, there was a lot of pressure on the game, a lot of concern about head health. And there are 4 million kids playing football today, and they deserve the best possible protection. One of the things that struck us, though, was how little innovation there'd been in the football helmet space. In fact, today's helmets resemble those that were worn in the 1970s, so nearly 50 years ago. They still have a hard polycarbonate outer shell and some padding on the inside. So not a lot of innovation in the space. We felt like we could make a real difference. So the 3 co-founders got together, and we don't have traditional sporting goods backgrounds. I come from the medical technology industry. I spent almost 15 years with Medtronic in the US and Europe, and then I ran a defibrillator company. My other co-founder is a pediatric neurosurgeon, and the third co-founder is chairman of mechanical engineering at University of Washington and also director of the Boeing Advanced Research Center. So a lot of expertise in aerospace and materials and impacts and so forth. Since then, we've put a team together of 65 people from aerospace, med tech, sports tech, sporting goods. And collectively, over the course of the last 3 years, we've all worked on our first product, our flagship product called the 01, which you see here before you. The 01 is quite different than traditional helmets, and we borrow largely from automotive safety, automotive engineering. So whereas modern cars you see here, they deform upon a collision. They have crumple zones and bumpers and so forth. And by deforming, they slow impact forces before they reach the passenger. Whereas old cars, like traditional football helmets, were rigid. You get into an accident, they don't crumple, they don't deform, and the passenger therefore wasn't as protected. So we've borrowed those concepts and put them into a football helmet. The big difference being, with our football helmet in a collision, of course, you don't have to take it to a body shop. It can withstand thousands of collisions. It bounces right back in a matter of milliseconds. So let me show you what that looks like, if we can cue up the video. We don't have the typical helmet with a hard shell and some padding on the inside. And so the helmet is also more sophisticated in its mechanical engineering, as you might imagine. It has 4 layers. They're all engineered to work in concert to mitigate or slow impact forces. The outer shell is flexible, as you could see, but most of the impact absorption is actually done by that reflex layer. It's a layer of buckling columns. And this is how they work.
We have the impact absorbing layer, which consists of columns or filaments. During deformation, these rods deform and eventually buckle.
They move omnidirectionally. They can respond to impacts from any angle and any location.
We wanted a helmet that deformed locally at the impact location.
All right, so there you go. So we've used a lot of technology to develop this helmet, a lot of finite element analysis. We also have rapid prototyping technology. I think we're the only helmet company that has the new carbon DLP 3D printer on hand, for example. And we've done a lot of testing, a lot of iteration over the course of the last several years. What you're seeing here is a picture of our Smash Lab, where we have the precise equipment that the NFL and NFL Players Association use to rank their helmets each year. And in fact, in 2017, our first year on the market, we ranked #1 in NFL helmet performance testing. We also tried to introduce some performance characteristics into the helmet because football players are young and they feel invincible, and we want them to have reasons to want to wear the helmet beyond safety. One of them is field of view. So our helmet has the widest field of peripheral view of any helmet on the market, nearly the limit of human peripheral vision. And because of that, the typical shields or visors wouldn't fit. And so we went and we did a collaboration with the leader in optical technology, Oakley, who developed a custom shield just for our helmet. It has very little optical distortion, and it has special coatings that filter out certain elements of the light spectrum to improve visibility on the field. This first year that we've been on field, in fact, we had players on 18 NFL teams wearing the helmet. Some of the stars whom you recognize here, Russell Wilson, David Johnson, Doug Baldwin, for example. And we're also on 20 of the top college programs and some high schools as well. In fact, Notre Dame recently announced that they're going to outfit their entire squad in the 0-1 next season, which is something that is hugely validating for us. Along the way, because we didn't come from sporting goods, we came from med tech and aerospace and so forth, we needed a lot of user feedback. And so we were very fortunate that a lot of the best players to ever play the game chose to support our cause as investors or advisors. And we call them our player coalition. You can see Roger Staubach, Jerry Rice, Doug Baldwin, Tony Dorsett. And so they really provided valuable feedback, as did the NFL and NCAA equipment managers, athletic trainers, and players. It was a very user-informed development process. We also had access to some of the top minds in the world on the clinical side, the thought leaders in neurosurgery and pediatric injury. So Don Comstock developed the largest database of high school sports injury in the country. Rich Ellenbogen is the former chair of the NFL Head, Neck, and Spine Committee. Fred Rivara is editor-in-chief of the Journal of the American Medical Association Pediatric Journal. Stan is the former team physician for the Seahawks and Mariners, and Bill is the chief medical officer for the U.S. Olympic Committee. So we really had access to the best and brightest here who were motivated to protect these 4 million kids that are playing football today. We've been fortunate to attract a lot of media attention because we are operating in the football space, 60 Minutes, NBC, Washington Post, you name it. We were also named, the helmet was one of the 25 best inventions of 2017 by Time Magazine. And as a company, Visus was named one of the 8 most innovative startups of 2017. We also, in our first year, made the Madden NFL 18 game, and all the players wearing the helmet were characterized as such. So this is just a great way for us to raise awareness for what we're doing. And what it's going to help us do is to get into other sports and categories and protect all the boys and girls who need better protection. And we can enter those categories with brand awareness and strength. The other thing we did, again, to help these kids was we started a private foundation, a 501c3, that will give grants to schools and youth programs to help them afford the latest sports technology and training programs. So that's the Visus story, and I kept it brief, so I'll be more than happy to take questions from all of you now. There's a question here.
I don't know if there's a microphone.
I can repeat it if you want to go.
Great product, obviously, there's a need in the space, so congratulations on bringing something to market.
Thank you.
As far as broader applicability in football, I was a little surprised that there aren't more people wearing it, right, based on what we're seeing with CTE and everything. How much of that might be branding, right? People wearing Rydell and other brands. Mm-hmm. What do you think that timeline is to get people to wear it more broadly across the professional football and college?
Yeah, we're actually delighted with where we are in our first year because we chose to go to market top down and focus just on NFL and a few select college programs. And this is the most difficult level of the sport to penetrate because these players often wear the same brand of helmet for several years and they have a lot of familiarity with those products, how they look, how they feel. And so to have players on 18 NFL teams in year one, we actually have more NFL players than the most recent entrant who who got into the category about 10 years ago. We have 3 times as many helmets in our first year as they have now after nearly 10 years. So we're in the process of broadening our launch now into all college programs and high school programs. This is an important year for us in that regard. But really, we're not going to see very substantial penetration until we have a broader product line and more price points. And that's what we're working on now. We hope to introduce those things over the course of the next 12 to 24 months. Thank you for that question. Yes, over here.
Who knows? I was wondering how do you use that data to answer clinical questions, or how do your clinicians use that data?
The question is, how do we use data to inform design of the helmet or clinical understanding? So today we rely almost solely on bench data, using sophisticated impact test equipment and instrumented head forms that have embedded accelerometers and gyroscopes and so forth. And we can get a very accurate understanding of how our helmet compares to other helmets, as well as how it performs across a range of impact velocities and all the various locations. And so every square inch of this helmet has been optimized based on those data and that impact testing. Our reflex layer, all those columns that you see there, those have all been very specifically tuned for the range of impacts that you see on the field. So our focus at the beginning has been just on a better mechanical solution, the helmet, and we're in the process now of looking at the landscape of sensors that can be deployed on field to potentially inform future designs. Those sensors have to mature somewhat. There's some accuracy issues, some usability issues, but as soon as there's something that we feel that we believe in, that has integrity and that represents and stands up to the rigor of the mechanical solution, we'll implement that into the helmet going forward. Another question here.
Great product. Thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
Do you have any data that talks about any concussions that have been related to your product compared to other helmets?
Yeah, so it's our first year on field, and there really aren't enough helmets out there to draw any conclusions. In fact, that's a real gap in the science and understanding of concussion and CTE. Both of those are young in our understanding of them. And to do a proper trial involving helmets or any protective technology, because the rate of concussion is still relatively low, would require an N of several thousand players, most likely. So that's beyond the means of us as an individual company, but it's something we're hopeful that the NFL or the NIH will underwrite, because it's important data that I think the public needs. But it's very clear now, based on the impact data that's obtained in the lab, that this helmet reduces impact forces more effectively than other helmets, and we know that's a good thing. Yeah, over here.
So a couple of questions for you. As far as life expectancy for the helmet, how much trauma are you expected to last for one helmet? Because usually you'll have one helmet until the helmet breaks traditionally. And second question, showing you had some displays for DoD uses in the future, relativity of blast impact versus actual collision impact.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. So in terms of how durable is the helmet, what is the lifespan? We've done a lot of accelerated life testing. We did it prior to deploying the helmet on field this season. But you really never know how the helmet's going to perform until it's used in play. You just can't recreate that kind of rigor. We've been very pleased with how the helmet has held up. In fact, we're getting helmets back now from some of the NFL teams, used in 4 preseason games and 16 regular season games, and they look like they're brand new. And one of the reasons is because the shell does yield, so it's less likely to be gouged or suffer any flaws that way. But also, we developed our own paint system that was flexible to match the shell, and that paint system has held up very well. So as far as helmet lifespan, the NFL teams tend to replace them annually. at the other end of the continuum, the youth leagues tend to replace them every 4 or 5 years. This helmet will last as long as a traditional helmet, and perhaps longer. We'll just have to wait and see. We want to be conservative about those claims. As far as DoD, we do have a very active program there that we don't talk about publicly. At this point, it's not focused on blast, it's focused on blunt impact, because that's the expertise that we've gained in developing the football technology. Any other questions? Nope. Very good. Thank you so much, everyone. Oh, wait, here's a question. So, yeah, the question is, what's the price point? So this initial product was designed for elite play, NFL and major college, and so it's priced at $1,500. We will have a range of price points available for players of all ages. And so, that's our goal. We got into this, it's a cause for us, a mission to help those 4 million kids. So certainly the NFL and the major college teams can afford the current price point, but we're working very hard as our volumes increase, and we're working with our various supplier partners to get our manufacturing costs down. So there'll be more news about price in the very near future. And again, we're hoping to make it much more affordable so that kids of all ages and socioeconomic strata can benefit from this technology.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Dave.
you.